Good morning, happy campers. Michael Bolton here. Oh dear, just got back from the LGT. Thought we better record some kind of reminiscence before it is all expunged from our collective minds. The LGT, the biggest 40k tournament this side of the Atlantic. It's massive. There were 750 odd players, but over 1,000 in total with different systems. The 750 players playing 40k ranged from the top players in Europe, as well as a couple of Americans that had come over, all the way down to club players like ourselves who turned up just for the giggle and to test ourselves against the best players in the world. What happened before the event? Well, we've touched on this in the previous podcast, but Neil was still deciding what to do 3 days before the event. Ended up taking his Death Guard, which he really loves, and it's a really nice army. And he ended up painting 5 rhinos to take with him in the last week. Rhinos packed full of juicy, nurgly goodness and Marines. He did okay. We'll talk about that later. Alex was to Death Watch or not Death Watch, because the Death Watch detachment rules are pretty good, but the meta players seem to think that it's better to take Marines. We sat around in the evening on Friday discussing it, and none of us could understand why the Gladius detachment is so much better than the Death Watch detachment. And Alex was very happy that he took the Death Watch detachment in the end. I had one big issue with my Necron list, was my monolith. I knew from looking at the maps that I might struggle to move it around the table. It turned out that was the serious issue with it. Without that, I think it's the best, one of the best vehicles in the game, if I hazard to say that. It's tough as old boots. Its shooting is awesome, but it can't move. So that was something I ran into on at least 3 of the games, probably more. So what did we do? We all drove down to London and we met up on the Friday at the venue, which was open for the one-day tournaments. We hadn't entered any of those. We considered 5 games across the weekend quite enough for our elderly hearts, brains and backs. So we only played the 5 games, but I had a practice game against Neil and his Death Guard on the Friday, and managed to squeak a very narrow win. Good game. I was quite surprised I killed all of his rhinos, but thank you, Mr. Monolith, because they are great against anti-tank stuff. Went back to the apartment. This is part of our new policy. Our new policy is we're going to do fewer of the larger tournaments that involve us staying away, but we're going to go and stay for 3 nights, Friday, Saturday and Sunday, so that we can enjoy a few drinks on the Sunday when we don't have to get up and play a game, and not drink quite so much on the Friday and the Saturday, so that our heads don't hurt too much when we're thinking and playing our 40k games. We thought it might help improve our performance. Well, not quite so sure that's what happened, but nevertheless, it did feel much more relaxed. So we went back to our Airbnb, which we could have had an extra person in there, to be honest, or perhaps even 2, and reduced the cost significantly, but it was great. Had an ensuite for Neil, so he could go and do whatever he did in his private room, and Alex and I shared a smaller room and a bathroom, but it was good. Had a balcony for those who smoke to smoke, and it had locked parking with a big gate and a fob to open it. So it was great. It was great. Felt a bit like Will Smith in I Am Legend. We could just lock ourselves away with our remote doors operating and closing and keep all of the rest of the inhabitants of London away from us. It was quite interesting, actually, one night, standing on the balcony, enjoying a glass of wine, watching a local youth going around trying all the door handles on all the cars in the public car park. Unsuccessfully, I may add. Very strange. And then in the middle of, well, not in the middle of London, but in Enfield, there we were, standing on the balcony, looking out. Fox just runs out, runs around in circles, looks at us, and then disappears back into the undergrowth next to a deserted garage. Quite surreal, really. Urban foxes running around looking at us. But it was great. It was absolutely great. So the AB game was great. Then we turned up nicely rested after a lovely Italian, which we could walk to up Enfield High Street. We had a nice Italian, a bottle of red wine, went to bed reasonably early. Got up all excitable like a couple of teenagers and shambled around a bit, got in the car and drove to the venue, which was only about 12 minutes away. So we drive to the venue. It's, for those of you who haven't been before, it's at a massive Lee Valley Sports Centre. So it's basically not your average gym. This has got a 200-yard indoor track inside it, and the game tables for 40k are laid out within the inside of that track. It's massive. The roof is high. There is carpeting of some kind on the floors, and the noise, although it's got over 1,000 people in, was actually better than many of the venues I've been to where you've been in a sports hall with wooden floors and hard walls. Yeah, not bad. The only thing I had an issue with, well, there were two things that I had an issue with at the end, which perhaps I should talk about them, but I'm going to mention them now, was last year at the London GT, there was next to each table a strip on the tables where there was room to put boxes, armies, trays, that kind of thing. This year, obviously squeezed a few more mats on each row, which meant that there was no room for all of your accessories and accoutrements, which meant there was lots on the floor, lots on your chair, so you didn't sit down quite so much. And that was just a little niggle that I had, which was the first thing. Second thing was, although there are numbers on the ends of each of the rows of tables so in order to find your table, it still can be quite disorientating trying to find the table you're on. Sadly, for me, on the third game of the first day, I went to the loo and couldn't find my table. I couldn't even look it up because I'd left my phone on the table. And I ended up having to stop a passerby and say, "My name is Michael Bolton. Please look at your computer in your hand there. Tell me what table I'm on." So this very kind gentleman did. And then, worse than that, insisted on taking me back to my table like I was an 80-year-old who was trying to cross the road. I've never been so embarrassed in my life. But at least I found it again. But it wasn't easy for me, and I don't know whether anybody else had that issue as well. But it was it was funny. Okay, so we're standing outside waiting to get in. This is like a scene from any zombie movie you want to mention. 1,000 shambling war gamers all trying to get through the door. It's not a problem. The weather's nice. There's no rush. But it was very, very funny watching shambling is the only word that fits it. Shambling. If there could have been a general sort of murmuration like, it would have been just like The Walking Dead. But we got in there and all of a sudden we weren't Walking Dead. We were tournament 40k players ready to rock. So here we go. Hello, Alex. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I've got a bit of a cold, but that's not going to stop me ploughing on with our recollections from a rather hazy weekend in North London at the LGT. How did you enjoy it?
Really good. Yeah, had a blast. It was a really good event. 5 great games. Well organized, good food, good
Yeah,
company. Yeah, what's
yeah.
not to like?
No, I thought the venue. I've been a couple of times now, and I thought the venue is great. Usually, with that amount of people, I find sports halls get too loud and echoey, and I can't hear anything. But
Mm,
because the place is so big, for those of you who've never been, actually, it's not as loud as you think. Although there is another issue about it being so big, which we'll get into a bit later on. But in fact, no, I'll tell you now.
Yeah.
Halfway through, I popped to the loo from my table, which was table 109 or 190. Popped to the loo, came back, couldn't find my table. So I thought, oh, it's okay. I'll check my phone. If I check my phone, I'll be on there. I'll be able to see the number and I'll be able to find my table. But I couldn't check my phone because I'd left it on the table. So I ended up having to find a complete stranger and say, you're not going to believe this, but I can't find my table. And I haven't got my phone. Would you look at my name is Michael Bolton? Can you look me up and tell me what table I'm on? So bless him, this guy, this guy, not only looked up my table, but took me by the elbow and like an old man steered me to my table so I could get there without.
Care in the community. You gotta love it.
God, I've never been so embarrassed in my life. I really haven't. Anyway. It's what I'm trying to get. There's a lot of tables. It's a big event.
It is a big event,
and that was the last thing on the Saturday when it was a long day. We'd all been tired, so I got entirely discombobulated. But I'm back. I'm back. Right, Alex. So the event was fine. Pre-event planning, everything go okay?
Yeah, pretty much. Managed to create some sort of crib sheets for different armies that we might face. Got some reps in with my list, not many, but enough to, a rep with my list, which was enough to kind of get my head around it. Yeah, pretty good. Could have played some more games, I suppose, but yeah.
Yeah, but what did you eventually end up taking? Because we flip-flopped around a bit before the event about what we should take. What did you end up with?
Yeah, we did. I ended up with Deathwatch. Kind of a bit of a weird Deathwatch, I suppose. There was only one Deathwatch unit in it, and the rest of it drew on units from the Marine Codex, but I was pretty happy with it, and I had a plan. I did have at least two people say, "Oh, we've looked at your list, and I don't understand what you're doing," but it worked pretty well, I thought. So
and
I was quite happy with it.
Did you use the Gladius detachment rules, or was it the
the Death Black Spear Watch detachment thing?
And what does that give you?
That gives me 3 doctrines to pick from. So I can have army-wide precision, or army-wide lethal hits, or army-wide sustained hits 1, which is quite nice. And then it gives you the strats, one of which is the teleport strat, which is
I like that
es mi favorita.
Yeah.
And then it gives you special ammo, which doesn't really do much now, unless you take loads of bolt guns, but they're not really the optimal choice. But it was kind of useful on aggressors, so you can make their bolt storm gauntlets anti-infantry 2+, or an extra pip of AP. So it had its place, but I like it for the teleport, and I like it for the doctrines.
Yeah, it just allows you to bring a lot of firepower to bear on a particular part of the battlefield if you need it, doesn't it?
Exactly. Yeah. It's kind of fun to play. It's not like a normal Marine list, which is kind of staticky. Trumble up the board and go, I'm here, I'm going to shoot you.
Okay, so what else? What else was in it? Just really quickly, run us through your list.
What do we have? We had the Gravis Apothecary. He had the enhancement that let me deep strike a unit.
Yeah.
So he went with the aggressors. We had the Gravis Captain, who had the Tome of Ectoclade, so I could get a second Oath of Moment once per game.
Nice.
6 aggressors with the Bolt, Storm, and the frag cannon things on top. 5 Deathwatch Terminators with 3 assault cannons, 2 Thunderhammer Storm Shield. 10 Hellblasters, Redemptor, 2 units of 3 Inceptors, 3 Centurion Devastators.
Be afraid.
Those do you? 2 units of Infiltrators, a Thunderfire Cannon, which was brilliant, and some Inquisitorial Henchmen. That might have been about it. Oh, and some Eradicators. Don't forget the Eradicators. 6 Eradicators.
Mustn't forget those. Are there 2 units of 3 dropping in and being annoying?
1 unit of 6, just to... 3 don't really kill that much, but 6 tend to kill something.
Okay.
It's
Oh,
only
that's good.
190 for 6. So.
That's good. And before we get into it, what was your first opponent? What were you looking forward to? Because we saw these this couple of days before, didn't we?
Yeah, we did. I drew against demons. Not your typical demon list, I suppose. A demon list that perhaps on paper might look a bit weak, but it was pretty good.
Well, just keep that thought there because this is I'm just a brilliant at this because the link is I'm fighting demons as well on the first round. What a surprise! Mine's a bit much more traditional list: 4 big boys and then not much else. Three lots of
Yeah,
flamers, 3 lots of 3 nurglings, and a couple of other bits and bobs that I can't remember. But the
yeah.
main things were
More optimized for sure.
it was. Well, I'll get onto it later. But I was taking the Necrons, built around a Lich Guard block of 10 with the mandatory Lord and Resurrection Orb and Technomancer for the 5 that feel no pain, -1 to hit, -1 to wound. The different things about mine was I took a Monolith and I took the Silent King, both of which were absolutely brilliant. Silent King didn't die the entire weekend. He was awesome. I mean, he got hurt quite badly, and I think at some point he was actually on the radio going medic. But other than that, he was okay. The Monolith was awesome, with one small problem in that it couldn't move anywhere because it was too big to get through the gaps in the terrain, which I should have known, and I did know, and I still took the Monolith, and it's so annoying because another ½ inch, as the wife says, and it would have been brilliant. But
We've all heard that one.
yeah, I know. But other than that, so generally speaking, 2 Lockers, 10 Lich Guard, Ophidian Destroyers for objectives, 3 lots of 3 Tomb Blades for rushing around, Death Marks, 2 lots of 5 for objectives. The only other thing that was interesting, which I really enjoyed using, was 10 Immortals with Tesla carbines, supported by Anrika the Traveller that gives them +1 to wound, and a Plasmancer, which meant they had double exploding engines on 5s, which is pretty good, and they re-rolled 1s to wound and re-rolled all their wounds if the enemy was on an objective. So you were getting a lot of shots with those. And that was interesting, but a bit fragile. But
Sounds good.
yeah, you get about 40 odd hits on something. They still have to make 40 odd saves, and I did kill a unit of what are those Wraith Guard with the swords, not the guns. And they've got a 2-up save, so they just had to roll lots of 1s, which they did. So that was pretty cool. Anyway, first game, Demons. Give us a quick run through. How did you get on?
I lost. Trying to think back to the game now. It's
Yeah, I know it's hazy, but come on,
it
you
is
can
hazy,
do it.
especially after that Sunday night. Yeah, no, where did it go wrong? Couple of unlucky moments, I suppose. Like something surviving with one model when the unit should have been dead. They got some extra points for him. The Lord of Change had taken 3 wounds from the Hazardous. He was oathed, and the Deathwatch Terminator shot him with 18 assault cannon shots. Reroll hits, reroll wounds. Then they charged him with all the Power Fists and the Thunder Hammers, and did. I think it did about 6 wounds to him.
Oh, that's not good.
Yeah, no, it's not good. Just little things like that kind of swung it, but it's still a close game. It was certainly good fun.
Yeah.
Score 69 to me, 83 to Joe.
That's not much in that.
It's not bad. It's not bad. That's a bit of swinging either way. Got done by some cards towards the end, but
Yeah.
what do you do, right?
Yeah, it happens. I mean, I had demons, and I had I had the 4 big guys, and I couldn't do anything about them. I couldn't shoot them because they were all hiding around with Bellicor and his little shadowy things, and they just sat on the objectives. And then in the last 2 turns, moved towards me, and then they split up a bit. So in the last 2 turns, I killed the Lord of Change, and I killed the Bloodthirst. The Bloodthirster. Oh no. Sorry, Shalaxi. But I spent a lot of time trying to avoid Shalaxi because she was just going to tear up my vehicles and without any trouble at all, and monsters. So, I couldn't deal with it. They're just big, and I couldn't shoot them, and I don't really want to get involved in combat with them. So that was not particularly a good matchup for me. Didn't like it.
No. Well, demons always do. Demons do my head in, so
Everything does your head in, Alex. I mean, we had this discussion over a pint.
That is true. That is true.
Oh gosh. So, anything you learnt about demons? Anything? Would you do it differently?
Um, no, I think I'll still stick with the same plan.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, it's just a tricky matchup, isn't it? Because you've got to stop them doing a deep striking shenanigan, but at the same time, you've got to try and get closer to them because you need to get close to everything within Bellicor range, and then, you know.
Yeah, I think
It's a
the
difficult
problem
one.
it is the problem I have. I think with Necrons is that they don't have a massive amount of damage output. So unlike you, if you get close enough, you've got half a chance of killing one or two. Whereas if I get close enough, it's going to take me 2 turns, and by the end of the first turn, they're going to be on me, and that's going to be difficult. So never mind. So the monolith got caught by Shalatzi and exploded. Well, didn't explode. If it had exploded, I'd have been very happy, but it didn't. So I kept on. In the old codex, you were allowed to, in the 9th codex, you were allowed to roll. You were allowed to pay a command point and automatically blow up your monoliths, which was fabulous. But you're not now, which is a bit depressing.
Very sad.
It is very, very sad. We both fought demons first. We were all a bit excited. We both lost. Didn't Neil lose as well at the same time? He fought something. I can't remember what he fought now, but I know he lost.
Yeah. Did he play World Eaters?
Yes, he did. He did, and we all met up after the game and went, "Oh God, rubbish! We're all rubbish." It was terrible. And then I'll do my game first. I was drawn against someone called Alan Dickinson in the second game. And when I wandered over to the table, I looked across the table and it was an old acquaintance called Chris Dickinson. I still don't know why he was down as Alan Dickinson, but he's always used Tyranids. We've known him for what? I must have known him for 15 years or so on the circuit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and always an awkward opponent to say the least, but always knew his rules, always knew what he was doing, and has stuck with Tyranids through thick and thin. Now we started to play the game, and very quickly it transpired that he was not 100%. Apparently, he's had a couple of strokes, so he was been out of the game for a year or two. That's why we hadn't seen him. So I ended up having to deploy half his troops on my side of the table because he couldn't reach over. And so I sort of put him where it was. And it also transpired he wasn't massively up to speed with 10th edition because he hasn't played for a while. So I had a reasonably comfortable win in this game. He relied on his gene stealers to run across the table like they used to do in 9th and charge into things. It just doesn't work in 10th edition. And then he moved all his monsters too close to the monolith, and the monolith was awesome. Killed is it a high respects, Alex? One of those? Is it Carnifex?
Yeah, it could be. Yeah. High respects.
Yeah. Kill one of those. Kill one of the ones that were the big walking guns, and killed a Carnifex in the last turn just by looking at it with its death rays. It was horrible. So I had a reasonably comfortable win in game 2, and I thought that this is the beginning of my crawl to stardom for a 4-1 tournament result. Oh, how wrong!
To stardom.
How wrong could I be? Anyway, what did you get in the second round?
I got Necrons.
Hey, yeah. You should win this
they do
one.
My head in. Yeah, it was a bit of a wacky Necron list, which was pretty cool. It was nice to see. So it had the obligatory 20-man squad of warriors with the 2 gits that stand back up.
Yeah, Cryptothors. Let me yawn and say how dull that is.
Yeah, it's very dull. But then he had not 1 Catan, not 2 Catans, but 3 Catans.
I like his style. I do.
Yeah, well, it certainly intimidated me slightly. And so I went, okay, well, if we do this and this, he can't reach me because he's got a 12-inch range spear, and this guy just stares at me badly, and then it was okay. I got the win. It helped knowing what Necrons do, and it helped kind of teching a little bit into taking out the 20-man warrior block.
Yeah,
I knew I
absolutely.
could do that.
Yeah.
So
Did your aggressors come in handy against them?
yes, they did. Yeah, yes. there's no way around. I mean, basically, I shot everything into the brick in one turn because he kind of had to go into the middle to hold that middle objective.
Yeah.
And yeah, they took the Terminators and the aggressors and just fell over.
So the aggressors, how many shots they? Because they've just got strength 4 guns, haven't they?
Yeah, they do. So they're 3 shots each. So 6 of them. There's 3 shots each that hit on 3s. They're twin linked with lethal hits and sustained hits 1. I gave them.
Okay.
And then I played the wound infantry on 2+. So they were all wounded on 2s. And obviously there's Oath as well. So you reroll on hits. And then they fire D6 blast per guy. So a 20-man brick gives you D6 plus 4 per guy. That's also lethal hits, sustained hits, reroll on hits, rerolling wounds.
They must have nearly killed them on their own then, that unit.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. I think the Terminators hosed down the last 2 guys or something.
Blimey, that's hideous.
Yeah,
and I'm assuming that did he have the -1 to hit and the -1 to hit strat as well?
He did, and he had the who's the guy who gives them 4-up invulns?
Yeah, Oracan, yeah.
Yeah. So and 2 crypto thralls in there, so he had all the.
So let's just get this right. So he had 20 warriors, and he had a 4-up invulnerable, which meant that you had to do 80 wounds to him. Rather than you had to do 40 rather than 20 wounds to kill him.
Yep.
And you did that with just sort of nonchalantly with the group of aggressors who were out on a Sunday afternoon stroll.
Yeah, well, I mean, don't forget the 18 reroll on hits with sustained hits.
Yeah.
Lethal hits, and then wounded on 2s with a reroll. That accounted for quite a few.
Nice.
And then obviously there's the D6 plus 4, so you're getting 36 shots from the little fraggy things on top.
Yeah.
Again, lethal, sustained, rerolling hit, rerolling wound.
I bet
it's pretty good.
I bet he wasn't. I'm surprised that the Catans didn't cause you too much more trouble. The Void Dragon is an anti-vehicle one, so it's not going to worry you too much. But Nightbringer, if he gets that into you, he's going to really upset you. Mate, really, really.
Yeah. Yeah, he did, but I kind of refused flanked a little bit.
Yeah.
And the one unit I did have over there that Nightbringer was like, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you, I'm going to get you. I'll teleport away.
See ya.
Goodbye, loser. So, no. But it was a really good game, really nice guy. Again, nice opponent, which is what it's all about, right?
Yeah, of course it is. And you won that one.
Yes, I did. I managed to scrape a 95 to 76 win there.
Oof, that's not too shabby. But again, Necrons, they always score. They always score something. It's annoying.
They do always score.
Yeah. Okay, next one. Who did you fight next? Last game on the Saturday. We're all getting a bit tired, all getting a bit emotional.
Oh, yeah. I had a guy with Custodes.
Oh, deep joy.
Post-nerf Custodes. He wasn't very well. He is obviously suffering from some sort of cold or flu or something. But yeah. Again, another great game. We ended up somewhat randomly on table 379, which was a bit weird because we were on 1 win, 1 draw. 1 win, 1 loss. And when we got there, it was actually the bottom table. And there was a row of tables at the bottom that weren't being used. So there was me and James, and then another pairing next to us, and we had the entire row to ourselves. So it was brilliant.
Oh,
we
fantastic.
had space, we had no noise, reduced noise. It was really good.
Do you know what? That's the one thing that I thought was worse than the last year's, was that there was no room in between the mats for you to put any models or boxes. They obviously crammed on another couple of mats per row this year. And that was a little bit annoying because I was tripping over boxes and all kinds and nowhere to sit down.
Yeah.
But
there's no shortage of space there, is there? I'm sure they could have, spaced out a little bit more.
Yeah,
They had plenty of space.
I shall be feeding back to Zachary those thoughts.
Very good. I mean, look, to be honest, if you're going to criticise it, that's probably the only thing you could actually find to criticise it for, I think.
Yeah. Well, after I've talked about my end of day one, we'll have a chat about the facilities and everything else that was there.
Yeah. So I played this chap with Custodes, lovely player. Custodes really suffering from the reduced squad size.
Yeah.
So he's kind of running 5-man squads out, and I could take the squad out when it was coming out.
Yeah.
And then we kind of got to a point in turn 3, and he went, well, okay, if I either run out and I die, or I sit here and take some more loss. So he kind of ran back behind the walls. And I went, I'll go back behind my walls as well, and we'll see it out. So I got 86-77.
Brilliant. Okay. So that was you knew you were going to win that.
Yeah, from turn 3, we kind of, points projected and went, unless something really wappy happens with the cards, then, there's nothing you can do, because if he runs out to try and get on the objectives, I'll just gun the unit down.
Yeah.
It is what it is, right?
Yeah, and he doesn't have a lot of movement. Did he have bikes, the Praetor?
No.
Yeah,
no, he didn't.
Hasn't got any movement, has he? So as soon as you get some Overwatch on those objectives, he's going to struggle to go out and stand on them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, my game was against a really nice guy called Jared from South Wales, look you, and he had Eldar.
That's what you want on a 1-in-1, isn't it? Eldar.
Jesus Christ.
Last game on a Saturday.
Yeah, I was tired. This is the game where I went to the loo and couldn't find my table when I came back. So you can tell how disorientated and tired I was, because I couldn't see straight. But anyway, Lovely guy. And I don't think his list was massively optimized, but again, it just goes to show how he beat me, and it just goes to show how powerful the Eldar list is. And you don't even really have to think too much about what units to put in it, as long as you put in a Night Spinner, something to jump on objectives. He had unusually a Wraith Knight, which was great.
Yeah.
Until it strode within 24 inches of the monolith, and the monolith killed it in one round of shooting. So, well, before that, I don't know why he did it. I think he was trying to get on the centre for the secondary. What's it called when you have to control the centre?
Area denial?
Yeah, one of those. And he was half an inch too near. And I went, ah-ha-ha! Now, I would have got him earlier, except for the inability of the monolith to move out of my deployment zone because of the terrain. So annoying.
Just stood there, come closer.
It was. That's exactly. I'd rammed it up into a piece of terrain so that it could at least see through that piece of terrain, and that was as far as I could go for the entire game. I spent the entire game there just shooting anything that wandered within 24 inches, like one of those trapdoor spiders. And anyway, I was astonished when I shot at it, because it was 4 shots, and I rolled 2 hits and 2 sixes. So I actually ended up with 6 hits. And I said to him, what's your save? He says, I said, what's your invulnerable save? He says, I don't have an invulnerable save. I said, oh, that's going to be bad. What's your normal save? He says, 2. I said, oh. I said, hang on a minute. I'll just spend another command point and I'll make my AP 5. And he said, oh, I can't save it then. No, you can't. He said, what's the damage? It's a D6 plus 1, I think it was. Anyway, that was that all over. So so I wish he'd done that on turn 2 instead of turn 4, but nevertheless, it was gratifying. But he still won, and the reason he won more than anything else was fate dice. Absolutely, in my view. And he kept on saying that the mechanism was broken, because every time he needed a 3-up save, he had a 3 dice. He got a new one every turn. He could flip one of them over into a 6 whenever he felt like it. If he wanted a 6 to charge, he could. If he wanted a 6 damage, he could. It's just completely broken. That mechanism is just.
I mean that Eldar list. When we looked at it on paper, we went, that is a far from optimized Eldar list.
It is
far from optimized.
I think if I'd have been able to move my monolith towards his army, I think I could have beaten it, because I'd have killed the Wraith Knight in turn 2 maybe, or definitely in turn 3, it would have been a totally different game. But that was the game where my Immortals used the Veil of Darkness to scurry up to within 18 inches of his Wraith guard that was sitting on the middle objective at the time, and shot them to pieces in a round. Unbelievable. That's a lot of shots.
It is a lot of shots.
Yeah, I didn't have big enough hands to pick up the dice when I was rolling we're rolling to wound. And then re-rolling to wound everything because he was on the central objective. I still lost. But he was just scoring wherever he felt like it, and moving wherever he felt like, and saving whenever he wanted to. And anyway,
Eldar, isn't it?
Anyway,
say no more.
I'm not saying. I end the day on 1 and 2. You were on 2 and 1, is that right?
I was, yeah. And as far as I was concerned, I'd already achieved my weekend's goals.
Yeah, and I had to achieve one more win to get my 2 that I was looking for, and we'll get onto that in a minute. But afterwards, we get into my little Ford Fiasco and drive back to our apartment. Now, we've made a policy decision that we're going to do fewer events, big events, but make them a bit better. So we'd hired an Airbnb with 2 rooms and an ensuite and all the rest of it. That turned out to be a good idea, didn't it?
It was very good, yeah. It's good. I really like that whole approach to tournaments. The new approach. I think it worked really well because we managed to do everything. Yeah, every bit of it was enjoyable rather than trying to condense everything and it all being a bit.
Yeah, and I've always hated the if it's in London and I get in my car and I've got a 3-hour drive home on a Sunday, I've hated that. So this time we stayed the Sunday night and we drove home on the Monday after a hearty breakfast, which was good. And I think it leads to a much more relaxed kind of event. Now it does cost a bit, but if we just do 3 or 4 of these a year instead of the sort of 8 or 9 that we do at the moment, then it would pay for itself. We just have to pick the ones we want to go to and act accordingly. So we had a good night. I can't remember. Oh yeah, we had a fry up at home. I can't believe we did that. We had some beers and a fry up at home.
Yeah, we did, didn't we?
Yeah,
it was good. A very civilized night.
Very
could enjoy Sunday rather than feeling like death.
Yeah. What was the policy? We're only allowed 2 pints a day. Well, that didn't happen, did it? Because I know for a fact that Neil had at least 4 or 5 at the venue on the first day.
Yeah, I think the most important point is we didn't get plastered, so we felt fine the next day. That's the
on both the Friday and the Saturday nights. We had some drinks. We went to a nice Italian on the Friday, had a few beers, but again, we didn't get absolutely zonked like we have done in the past. So we wake up, we jump into your car, and we. After looking out from the balcony on which we were standing at blokes trying to break into cars, we were very pleased for the gated car park that we were in, weren't we?
Yes, we were.
So then we drove to the venue again, which was fine. Queued up outside. There was, what do we call them? Shambling. Lots of people shambling to get in.
It's like The Walking Dead. It's dreadful, honestly.
What is it about war gamers and carrying their bags and boxes, shambling?
If an alien landed on Earth at that point, he'd have gone, nah, I'm going.
We're out of here.
I'm not playing for this.
But we got in, set up, and my first guy, the guy I was playing, you'd have to look his name up because I haven't got access to it, Alex. I think his name was Ben Stevenson from memory.
Close. Matt Stevenson.
Matt, that's right. I've played him before because the first thing he said, last time we played, you beat me. And I said, I'm hoping to do the same again today, Matt.
By the way, who are you?
Well, I didn't know, but it came back to me during the course of the game. But anyway, he was playing Guard, and he had all the Guard stuff you'd anticipate. Manticore, Basilisk, 2 tank commanders, another Lemon Rust tank, some infantry, two lots of 3 Bulgrin, which were remarkably tough to kill, unbelievably tough. They reduced damage. They got a 4-up invulnerable. Their toughness 6, I think. They were tough as old boots, and they move 8 inches.
Gosh, they sound pretty good.
Yeah, they are. They move 8 inches, which is faster than my bloody vehicles. It's just... anyway, I managed to deploy my my monolith right at the front of the army, thinking I'm going to go and shoot some of those tanks. Well, he went first and shot my monolith and killed it on the first turn because he had but he only had the 24-inch range demolisher cannons. So he killed my my monolith before I got a shot off. But it did mean that all of his tanks were within, well, they were very close to the Silent King who I'd put next to him, because we'd had a chat. He couldn't make his mind up whether to shoot the Silent King or the monolith. And I think he did the right thing. But what he didn't realise was that the Silent King then shot one tank, charged another one and killed both of them, and then went on a complete rampage across the table, not stopping until he got to the end of the guy's deployment zone. So it was. I think it was a little bit of shock and awe. The rest of my army was just jumping on secondaries, and the Lich Guard eventually ran into the middle and then ran onto his deployment objective in his deployment zone. So that was a reasonably comfortable win for me. But as soon as his tanks were gone, he started to have to move his indirect fire units. And when you're starting to move them, they get even less effective than when they're standing still. So we got to the end of turn 4, when I had Lich Guard an inch away from his Manticore and his Basilisk standing on his home objective, and my Silent King doing jigs up and down the other side of his table edge. And he said, no, that's it. Thank you very much. And I reminded him then that I beat him last time as well.
Go for the sportsmanship score. I like it.
Yeah, by this time I'd given up on that. But no, that was a great game. The guy was great. It was really interesting to see how things worked with the new, because he's got Leonidas, is he the big boss
on the horse?
Yeah, that's him. He just gives them lots of extra orders, and they can do all kinds of things. But silly little things worked really well. I didn't think it would be any good, but the Silent King has a 12 indirect 1 damage shots at 24-inch range. Well, his little 10-man squad's hiding behind terrain. All of a sudden, I'm dropping, what are they? They're strength 6, so I'm wounding on 2s. They're -1, so basically they've got just the save because I'm firing indirect, so it's a 6. And then they're dead. So I was kind of taken off a unit every turn without even doing much. So that was kind of nice as well. But other than that, yep, I liked his tanks, the Lemon Russes, really powerful guns, very powerful. Las cannons are good, and I liked his indirects. That was good, and I liked the Bulgrins. They were good. Other than that, don't get too close to the monolith. It'll hurt you. Yeah. Anyway, what about you? Sunday morning.
Oh, yeah, this game's a bit weird. It started off a bit weird.
Did you have an argument?
Well, no, because I didn't challenge. So I didn't take on the lessons from the last podcast. But I mean, when I got there, the guys, it's nice enough guys. Oh, me and my friends, we were looking at your list, and we can't work it out at all. We don't know what you're going to do with this list.
Is that when you said, well, that's because you are complete idiots?
No. Okay. I thought, well, hold on, I've won 2 games with it, so it can't be that bad, right? But
yeah, we're both on 2. We're both on 2 and 2 at the end of. Well, I'm on 2 and 2. That's pretty good for me.
Yeah, and I'm on 2 and 1 going into this game. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, well, what don't you understand about it? It's like, oh, well, like you can't use your doctrines with your army, can you? And at this point, I'm thinking,
what?
Shit. Have
you been cheating?
Massively cheating, and I'm about to go home and wait for you guys. So I'd look. I'm like, no, like they're not restricted to kill teams. Oh, he's like, oh, but can you use your strats? I'm like, yeah, because it's 2 kill teams or 1 other unit. Oh, right, okay.
Yeah.
okay, that makes a bit more sense then. I'm like, okay, well, like if you'd read this, like surely, you know. And then he goes, but like I can't work out what you're going to put in deep strike because you won't be able to deep strike, your inceptors plus your aggressors because you can only deep strike 500 points, can't you?
No,
I'm like,
it's
that was my second point where I've gone, shit, am I massively cheating? I'm about to go to Zach and go, hi.
hello,
So
Zach.
sorry. I'll see myself out.
No, but you can. It's in the Leviathan GT pack. It's 1,000 points, and
Yeah,
no more than half the units in your army can be in deep strike.
exactly. So he was saying you can only deep strike 500 points. You can put another 500 points in strategic reserves, but they have to come on from the table edge, like a strategic. And I at that point, I was like, I'm not sure. And I
No,
didn't have the little fold out card thing, so I thought, okay, well, I'll play it that way. It's fine. I'll sacrifice the
you're
entire
such a
army
nice
design.
guy, aren't you? You didn't have to do that. You definitely can have 1,000 in deep strike.
Yeah. No, I clarified it because I went on the Art of War Discord when we were playing. And I said, I'm playing this guy who's saying I can only do this. And they were like, no, you can deep strike 1,000 points. Whether you want to or not is a different matter, but you
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
So I ended up playing the game. I only put the aggressors in deep strike, and everything else started on the table. The plasma receptors, which are supposed
Yeah.
to come down 3 inches away and do a secondary. So
So
I
that
mean,
wasn't comfortable then, was it? Because that's not what you want to do.
no, it's not. It's not. It was very much like, oh, okay. But I could spend CP and I could start picking up my inceptors, put a unit in deep strike, and
Right.
it wasn't so bad. It was just spending CP to kind of do what I should have done anyway. If that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then it started off with a bit weird. He got his laser pointer out, and then he's like, "Oh, I can see you over the base of this ruin." I'm like, "No, it's not how ruins work. You can't see over the bases." Just little things like where he was kind of very sure about the rules, but was completely wrong. But then I think then he realised that I probably knew more than he did, and been tournaments 20 odd years, and he was like, "Oh, okay." And then it settled down into a perfectly fine game in the end. It was good. It was
And
an
and so
enjoyable game.
have you mentioned what he was using, or have we just
Oh,
gone
Space Wolves. Space
Space
Wolves.
Wolves?
Yeah.
Oh, that
Yeah,
should be
yeah.
fun. He should have loads of Thunderwolf cavalry because
Nope.
well, that's a mistake because they're cheap as chips now.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it wasn't. He had 10 Terminators. He had 10 Terminators. He had the Aggressors. He had some Desolators, which was a bit weird. 3 Redemptors.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
it was a really, really punchy list. And I thought if he keeps everything together and kind of, huddles up the middle of the table, I'm going to struggle because I can't go in. I can't match him power for power.
Well,
What I have is a bit more mobility
and
and
if
the
he leaves
ability
it
to
in the
pick stuff
middle,
around the edges.
yeah, you leave it in the middle and drop in to shoot something, you'll kill something, and then the rest of his army will kill whatever you've just used.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But luckily for me, he kind of split his Redemptors up. So he had sort of one in the middle and then one on the other flank. And he rapid ingressed his Terminators into the open. Sorry, rapid ingress. Deep struck his Terminators into the open, killed a handful of infiltrators. But then literally everything in my army shot the Terminators, so it killed them all.
That's a big chunk.
It's that. Yeah. It was a bit. It was interesting. But fun game. It was all right once it all settled down, and I
And
won.
he
So
and
yay!
once it settled down and he realised that the old bloke he was playing against knew the rules.
Yeah, this old boy who's turned up with his Death Watch army that no one knows what he does.
How many Death Watch players were there at the event?
I think there were 8.
Okay, so it was more than I thought might turn up, given the nerf that they had to their ammunition and everything else.
Yeah, it was the least played faction at London GT
Oh no!
because they
How the
published all the results. So
how the mighty have fallen.
I know. I still think they're quite good, but
I think they're
what
good.
do I know?
Well, we were having a in the Italian. We were talking about this, and you were saying this is what they get. They get to do this, and they get to move that, and they've got these special strats, etc., etc. And I was thinking, well, why wouldn't you take that? It sounds like it sounds perfectly balanced. It sounds like it's got all the right stuff.
Yeah, I think so. I'm certainly looking at the new marine stuff. I'm not sure. I know people are raving about the Iron Storm detachment, the one where you get all the vehicles and you get bonuses for the vehicles and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but it's got bad matchups. It's got terrain issues.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
It's got mission play issues, I think.
yeah. I mean, I'm looking forward to the new Necron Codex coming along, but they could make the monolith the best thing since sliced bread. But if it can't move around because tournament organisers have terrain that's too close together, then it doesn't matter. So
exactly.
So after your Space Wolf petting zoo arrangement.
He's a good boy. Yes, he is.
Yeah, tickle him behind the ears. Yeah. That never ends well. So after 4 games, I've won 2, lost 2, and miraculously, if I won the last game, I could go 3-2, which would be, I'd have a drink over about that. That would be very, very good. But then I run into orcs. Yay!
Yeah.
There's so many. I can't kill them. I really just can't kill them. Again, one of the big issues, Monolith stuck behind a building, can't get anywhere because it can't get out of its own deployment zone. So he can just avoid it, essentially. Just runs around the other side of the table. 4 trucks, 20 beast snaggers, 20 boys, some guys with jump packs, some guys on bikes, 2 monsters that are just like Catans. They're a toughness of the Catan. They have a 4-up feel no pain, and they have a 4-up invulnerable save. They're giant squig rider things. 2 of them. Named characters, I think they are. And they just ran into the Silent King and into the Monolith and just basically stayed there for the entire game. They did a few wounds. I did a few wounds. Nothing happened much. And he just won the primary game because on turn 2 he announced the war, advanced and charged, hit lots of units which I was screening with, sat on their objectives for the rest of the game, and that was it. And I lost. I wasn't slaughtered, but I lost well. So that's basically the learnings from that. Orcs are going to flood the board. If you can kill lots of them, then you can come back on turns sort of 4 and 5 because they're not that hard to kill, but you have to have something left. And their war turn is quite brutal. Advance and charge, 5-up invulnerable save, and something else which I can't remember. +1 strength and +1 attack whenever they hit. So that's a lot of attacks from things like 10 boys and all the rest of it. So, yeah. They're nasty, and then you have to be able to have the damage output to get them off the objectives in the last couple of turns. And Necrons don't have that. So, didn't go brilliantly. So I lost it. So I ended up on 2 and 3, which is what I was kind of aiming for. So I had a lovely time. 5 great games against 5 great guys. Nothing to complain about at all. What about you? What's your last game like, Alex?
Well, speaking of hordes, I'll raise you a horde orc army, and I'll give you a horde space marine army.
Well, you can now. They're so cheap, aren't they?
Well, especially Black Templars. So it's Black Templar army with I think it had 120 or 130 marines on foot.
Is that it?
Yeah, most of which can pre-game move. So, and he got first turn, and we played quarters. So, at the start of my turn 1, I think I had 40 Black Templars in my deployment zone.
Youch.
Yes.
Are these just normal marines with a 3-up save? And they haven't got apothecaries or anything to bring them back to life. I mean, they're just dead when they're dead, are they?
They are dead, but they've all got 6+ feel no pain. And they all hit like a truck.
Yeah, because you can give them all kinds of weapons, can't you, in each squad?
Yeah, and even their basic chainsword, I think they've got a couple of strats that if you play one of those, and a normal guy with a chainsword gets pretty choppy. Yeah, it was challenging. I mean, the guy was lovely, such a nice guy. And I think first turn, in my turn 1, I killed 30 marines.
That sounds like a good start.
Yeah, I mean, I was killing them. I was killing them dead. But of course, the big problem is because he got first turn, he had a lot of board control and a lot of primary
Yeah,
points.
yeah,
So much like the Orcs, by the time you're trying to come back on turns 3-ish and then 4 and 5, you're playing catch up.
yeah, yeah.
And the game was super super close. I lost it. He got 85 and I got 80.
Oh,
And it came down to literally could he roll a 4 to advance onto an objective in the last turn. That's how tight the game was. So
well,
yeah,
that's.
and he did. So he got those extra 5 points.
Oh man, anything could have happened there.
Yeah, super close. A bit like the Demon Way. It's super close. A couple of things either way. It's going to be a different result. But I think if I went first, I'd feel a lot more confident. Because I wouldn't be seeding that primary control.
Well,
but yeah, it's really good.
They're not in rhinos. They're not in anything like that. Any dreadnoughts?
No.
So the whole army is basically 120 odd Marines.
Yeah.
On foot.
Yeah. They all pre-game move.
I don't.
Then they move.
It's a bit one
dimensional. They can advance and charge. Yeah. I mean, he beat Eldar because he's rushed him. He lost us. I want to say he lost to something which killed Marines and got first turn. So he just got pumped in that game. But it's challenging to face.
I bet, but if I wouldn't like to fight it because, as I say, I don't have enough damage output to stop them. But
I think he'd run over you.
Yeah, I think he would. Okay, so
it's good. How many
did you win?
I won 3, lost 2. Challenged for both of the 2 that I lost, so I was quite happy with that.
I think you could have, with a bit of luck, you could have been 4-1 in there without too much trouble.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
and it's quite pleasing.
Well, it's very very good, and I think you hadn't had any practice really, except for one game with it. So I my view is that you can probably look at next time we go, and when we go to Battlefield Birmingham, you might be looking at 3 and aiming for 4.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's all changed now for Birmingham. New codex.
Oh, of course,
nerfed Oath. So new Thunderfire Cannon's gone. So there's some reworking of the list.
So what are you going to do for Birmingham? Are you allowed? Is it still under wraps and you're not allowed to share?
No. I don't think anyone's going to be listening going, well, I better get the inside track on.
No one's going to take any notice. No one's going to take any notice of us, mate, so I wouldn't worry about it.
Exactly.
So it's still Death Watch?
It's probably going to be Death Watch.
Oh,
because I've got the experience with them. But I'll tell you, one of the things I worked out with London. So the few events before London, kind of towards the end of 9th, I'd taken the best possible list I think I could take with my model collection.
Yeah.
And London, I had that cheeky unit of Centurion Devastators, which are not bad, but if you're going to optimize the list, they get cut.
Yeah.
Like every time. But what it actually does, it just takes the pressure off because you're like, this is a cool unit to play. And then immediately you're less pressured. And you're like, okay, I don't like, and you play freer. You're not sort of het up and going, okay, well, I've taken the best army, so I should do well with this. If you lose a game with a rubbish unit in there, you go, okay, I've lost. So what?
Yeah, I also think that there's everybody talks about, this is the meta. The meta is these are the best armies, and that's the best army, and that's the best unit in the best army. I think the meta is very different when you get out of the top 10 or 15 or 20 tables. I think the meta,
agreed.
The meta in table 40 is nowhere near the same build that you're going to get in the tables 1s and 2s. And it makes me think that when we're watching all of the experts saying, this is what we're going, they are living in a rarefied atmosphere of, they know the kind of lists that are going to be at the top tables. If you're anywhere from table 20 to table 100, God, you could fight absolutely anything, and it will include non-optimized units that you're not going to be expecting, and I think that's quite fun. And I'm no longer that bothered. Too. I'm no longer that bothered, Alex, about the big meta of the game. I'm just kind of interested to put together the best units I think I can get into my codex that are a bit of fun to play with. like the monolith, for
Yeah,
example.
yeah. I mean, and that's kind of the approach I'm taking to my list for Birmingham, right? So I'm changing it up because I have to, because units are disappearing
Yeah,
and whatever.
yeah.
And you know the Deathwatch Terminators in London, they were fine. I mean, I wouldn't say they were amazing, but they were fine. They're kind of cool to use, and who doesn't like Terminators, right? So they're going to stay in the list. Okay, they're not optimized. You know, if I play Manny or Vic or whatever, they're going to be pants down. And but so what?
Yep.
You know, I'm going to enjoy using Terminators, and they're not bad. You know, they're not bad by any stretch of the imagination, but they're not optimized. But you know, does it matter?
It doesn't, and that's why I can't take my monolith because it won't move anywhere. But I am taking this. I'm sticking with the Silent King, and I think I'm right in saying I was the only person to have a Silent King out of all of the players at the LGT. And do you know what? He never died. He was absolutely awesome in every game. And I kept on thinking, why aren't people using this guy? What you know what? He's got 16 wounds. Well, he's got 26 wounds, including the two menhirs, the two pillars that he travels with, and they've got there's toughness 10 with a 4-up invulnerable save. That's a lot to chew through. And
it's probably 2% less optimal than another choice. That's the thing.
yeah, that's right. I mean, people. The choice is him or the Catan with the sempiternal weave that you can't kill.
Yeah.
And if I want to have a Necron army that does a bit more damage, I'm taking the Silent King because he shoots, he fights, and he generally is just a mean mofo. And I like that. I you know the Catan's fine, but it doesn't do a lot of damage. He'll score your secondary points, but he doesn't do a lot of damage. And sometimes you've really got to get people off objectives, and I kind of like him, so I'm keeping him. I'm keeping him for Birmingham. The rest of the army is entirely changed, entirely different for Birmingham. So I've no idea, and I'll only get a couple of games in to play with it. But we're going to keep the Thousand Sun, the Silent King, and we're going to have other shenanigans. No Lich Guard, no Warriors, no Immortals. How about that?
Gosh, I like it.
Radical.
Well, I'll pin my colours on the mast. I'm going to take Deathwatch.
Do it. Yeah. All right, mate. That's great. So, LGT, we going next year?
Yep, 100%.
Good, me too. And we'll be reporting about our practice games for Battlefield Birmingham, which will be happening on Monday at my house.
Yeah, assuming you're not died of the plague.
No, I'll be recovered from I've only got a slight sniffle. It was a great weekend. I couldn't think of many ways to improve it, to be honest. We had a lovely time. It was great to see Alex and Neil, spend some time with them. The Sunday night was a bit of a blur. We went to a pub. It's fully intending to go to an Indian for something to eat. And after 5 hours of drinking, we forgot to eat entirely. So on the way back, Alex and I popped into McDonald's. Supper of Champions, I'd like to call it. And we were kicked out because we were the last people in there. Neil didn't come in because he literally couldn't talk. So he couldn't order anything. You should see the text that he sent to us to tell us where he was afterwards. It was indecipherable. But nevertheless, great night. The apartment was great. The competition was good. I think we all enjoyed it. I think we all achieved what we thought we were going to achieve. I got a 2 and a 3. I think Neil got 2 and 3. And Alex exceeded his expectations by winning 3. And you know what? I think he was just a few points off winning 4. I think one of his games, in fact, he's mentioned it already, one of his games came down to the last roll of the dice of the game, and it was a 50-50 shout whether he would win or lose. So he did extremely well. But Deathwatch, despite what the meta people would tell you, is still good. My learnings from it was, please, Zach, make a bit of room on the table so we can put something on the side of each game. Otherwise, it gets a little bit cluttered. And with 1,000 people, it's already busy enough. Let's try and make it a bit easier for people. Second thing, is monoliths, don't take them to competitions. They're really powerful, but can't move through the terrain. The terrain is designed to allow a knight base to move through, which is about 5.5 inches. Your monolith is 7 inches wide. It's not going to fit. So most competitions you go to, it's not going to work. I'm going to Battlefield Birmingham in a week's time. I would love to take a monolith. I've looked at the maps and it's just not going to happen. It's really disappointing. And, you know, they criticize players for modeling for advantage. On the other hand, tournament organizers need to place terrain that doesn't affect players discriminatorily. So I think there's, you know, if you're going to make gaps big enough for knights, why wouldn't you make them big enough for all the models that potentially arrive at a competition? But that's another story. Okay, so what else did I learn? Fate dice are completely broken. It's a mechanism that is completely, it's just too much for the game. I played a lovely Eldar, Jared, who was the Eldar player who beat me. He would agree, I think, that the system is bust. But let's think about this. At the end of the LGT, the winner was a Chaos Space Marine list that had fought 3, or it might even have been 4 Eldari armies to get to the top spot on the podium. So although they're good, they are beatable. And that leads me to my final point of our little tome today is there's not just one meta. I keep looking at the podcasts by the best players in the country, and they're all talking about these armies are the best. You look at the Art of War from America, and Siegler's talking about this army is this is the tier list, blah blah blah. They're absolutely right, as long as you're in the top 50 of an event like the London GT. Absolutely right. Below that, the meta is completely open. There are some armies better than others, but there are also rock, paper, scissors lists. So you can take a meta army and get absolutely pumped if you meet the wrong army on your first game, or you happen to fall into the middle tables, because those middle tables have competent players using lists that are unexpected by the top players, because the top players would not expect to meet them in the top 50. So what you get is a meta in the top 50 where everybody knows what lists you're going to have. They know what's going to be in your Eldari list, barring 1 or 2 units. They know what's going to be in your Chaos Space Marine list. You're going to have a Forge Fiend. You know, you're going to have all the bits and bobs that make it work. You fall back into the middle of the tables, you're going to take your meta list there, and you're going to meet things that you would never expect to meet and probably aren't prepared for. So then you're going to be relying on player skill. Anything can happen with the roll of the dice. It's a dice game. So when players are looking at other people's lists and they're looking at the meta, they're watching videos on YouTube and they're reading articles, just be careful. Just be self-aware of where you're going to be. If you think you're going to be fighting the top players in the top 10, yep, make yourself a meta list. If you're expecting to win 2, 3, or even 4 games out of 5, which means, by the way, you're not going to be anywhere, even if you win 4, you're not going to be anywhere near the top. Don't worry about it. Put together a list that you enjoy playing, that will do what you want it to do, and rely on your player skill and the roll of the dice, because you're still going to win 3. If you win 3 or 4, you should be extremely happy. And I think Alex is in that place. His Death Watch, he wasn't going to be swayed to take a Gladius detachment and turn it into a normal Marine. He took a Death Watch list. It allows him to bounce about. It allows him to do what he enjoys doing. And he came darn near to getting a 4-1 at the world's second largest tournament. Come on, Alex. Great job. Okay, that's it for today. We're going to be talking about the Battlefield Birmingham event coming up in a couple of weeks' time that I'm going to be taking my Necrons to again, this time without the monolith, of course. And I'm not sure what I'm going to take instead. it's 350 points and I don't know what to do. Never mind. Who knows what Alex will take? The new, they're going to be accepting the new Marine Codex, so he could take anything. Oh my God, who knows? I'm replete with excitement, and so much so that I'm going to have to go because I'm getting too excitable. Thanks very much for listening, for those of you that have been, and see you on the ice.